everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel if you're a returning viewer or subscriber. In today's video I'm going to be filming a book unhaul. I thought it was snowing. It could be sleet. I don't know. Anyways, not filming weather. So I've got a little lamp on far away over there so I don't look completely blue, because that's what it was looking like before I turned the light on. So sorry about weird lighting, it's going to be quite different from my usual videos. Book unhaul. Last one of these I filmed was 5 months ago. I thought it was like a month ago and I was like, I can't be filming another one of these videos already. Here we are doing that thing because apparently it's almost been half a year since my last one. A little story about me, about my reading, about the way that I read, about the way that I bring books in and send them back out again. I only keep books that I rate kind of 3 stars and higher. Some 3 stars and some 3.5s get unhauled. If it's a 3, it's most likely going to go. If it's a 3.5, I might keep it a bit longer than some of the other books I just automatically get rid of, but it's still not going to be lasting for the next like 10 years. This is just a little system I have with myself. I want to be buying books and reading books. I love a physical book. I want to be doing that for the rest of my life. As long as I am here on the earth and able to read, then I want to be continuing to purchase books, continuing to keep books that I love. It's kind of necessary for me to get rid of the ones that were not it for me. I have a kind of spreadsheet of books that I've unhauled over the years just so they keep like relevant in my mind, because usually it's books I have read that I'm getting rid of. I still think that like they could be good to recommend to you, whatever it may be. So I think I have about 10 books to mention in this video. I think a couple of them are ones that I actually haven't read yet. I don't usually buy books and then unhaul them before I've even given them a go. I think the only ones in this pile which are ones like that, and one that I got from the charity shop. My reading taste has changed. I haven't been able to get to the books within the time frame of me still being interested in them. I'm not like an advocate for that at all. I really think that we should not be buying books just to get rid of them 5 seconds later before we even touch them. Like, that's not, like, every single book I buy I want to be buying with the intention of reading. I don't know, I'll talk through each book's individual explanation, what the book is, what it is about, and why I've ultimately decided to pass them to someone else. All these books are either sold on my Depop, which I can have linked, or eBay. They're like valuable just so people have like a safer buying experience, or they're just given to the charity shop. Majority of the books that I get rid of go to the charity shop. None of these going in the bin. So the first book we have here is also at the very bottom of the pile, which is a bit stupid of me. Some of these books I don't have with me, by the way, just because I've already got rid of them. The Winter's Promise by Christelle dabos. This is a piece of translated French fiction. I bought it in the charity shop. I paid £2 for it or something. I bought this like many years ago, like 2018, 2019. It wasn't like a university love book. And it's the first book in a kind of like long series of fantasy books, I believe. Is it YA? I think it is. It's about these floating islands and you can like travel between the islands and I don't know. They like float in the sky, I think. I just don't have any interest in reading this basically, and I just think it's going to take me a long time to get through. I'm going to get all the way to the end of it and then realize I've got another like 5 chunky books to get through. I love the covers of these. They're all kind of pastel colours, but I also think that my chances of getting my hands on the other books in the series in the hardcovers is slim, and if I ever feel like picking this up I can always get it from the library or read it on my Kindle or something like that. Like I said, I don't like getting rid of books that I have never given a go, but I just feel like this one is not, it's not for me. I could even audiobook in the future. That is the first book in this haul. Okay, so the next book is one that I feel a little bit sad about getting rid of, and I'm honestly torn because I really enjoyed this book at the time. I would still highly recommend it to people, but I don't think I need it sitting on my shelves. And that is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I love this book. I think I gave it 4.5 stars at the time. It was such a good read. It was very, very well constructed. It had some really interesting themes and topics that I don't usually read about in books. Like, one thing is that this is a voices rep for the main character. She has OCD. John Green has OCD himself, and seeing that kind of depicted within a novel, particularly like a YA novel, was really interesting. It's also kind of a bit of a mystery book. It's about this boy who's friends with the main character and his father goes missing, I believe, and it's them trying to figure out what happened. The only thing I didn't like is that it's got quite an open-ended plot. Things wrap up, they don't completely wrap up, they leave you with questions, which I didn't love, but it kept my attention the entire way through. I feel like the longer this has been like not sitting in my room, it's been sitting like out in the corridor, my unhaul pile, the less I've kind of considered it and less I've kind of missed having it on my shelves, if that makes any sense. I think that I would ideally prefer a paperback copy of this, so I could always repurchase it if I felt really sad in the future. But this is definitely one that even if I don't own, I'm going to keep recommending to people because I think it's great, and it's also so different from John Green's usual stuff. This is a special edition copy. It has like a poster full of quotes on the other side of the dust jacket. Again, this stuff on Depop, but it might just end up going to the charity shop back to where it came from. So yeah, that's another one. Really good book. If you're curious in picking up any of his stuff that's not like what are the popular ones, Paper Towns, The Fault in Our Stars, you might enjoy this. Okay, I don't have this book with me. I believe I might have already given it to the charity shop. But it's Paris Key by Juliet Blackwell, I believe the author is. Or maybe I gave it to a friend, I don't know. I bought this book in 2016 when I was living in Paris in like a W. H. Smith or a Waterstones or something that was in Paris. English books in Paris are really expensive to purchase, like from a bookstore. So I paid a lot of money for this, and it was like historical fiction set in World War II in Paris, obviously. It was a nice story, but it also had a really dissatisfying ending, and I feel like ultimately, like, if there's an experience I have while reading the book that's a bit of a letdown, then that's going to taint my overall like image of the book. I think I gave it a high rating back then. Probably realistically now, if I read it, it would be like a 3-star. It was a really beautifully floppy book, and like I said, I paid a decent amount for it, but I've had it for so long that I don't feel any loss, and I don't feel any pain at having spent that much money on a book only to like unhaul it later. It was fun and cute and sweet, but I just don't think it had any kind of like lasting impact on me. Okay, another 2 books I don't own because I sold them actually. I have Twisted Love and Twisted Games. If you've been following me on this channel over 2023, you would know that I read the first 2 books in the Twisted series across that year. Did I love them? No. Gave the first book 2.5 stars and I gave the second book 2 stars. I tried the first one, I thought it was ridiculous, and then I decided to keep going because I heard that the series got better, and actually a lot of people's favourite book was the second one, and then when the second one was even worse than the first, I was like, no, I'm not spending any more of my hard-earned money on this series. The Twisted series is a series of like companion books, so they're kind of like interconnected standalones. They follow different couples within this friendship group, these 4 girls, and it's each of their kind of like their romance stories. The first book was just crazy. The MMC was the most like unhinged person I've ever seen, and the fact that we were meant to be kind of attracted to him is just baffling to me. You know, there's that thing about, do you think that couple would like actually last beyond the end of the book? I could honestly see in like 20 years, or even hopefully less than that, our main girl Ava getting a restraining order from this guy because he was the definition of like toxic. He was a stalker essentially. Also like low-key a murderer, but you know, that's another thing. And then the other book is Twisted Games, which is a bodyguard princess romance book. No. You know, that series like just wasn't for me. I think some people love it, but I personally have no interest in continuing the series or keeping my original copies, so I sold those to someone who was very keen to have them. Like I said, it's quite a popular series. It's just definitely not my kind of thing, and I don't feel any loss at having their absence on my shelves. Another book that I'm getting rid of because I didn't get on very well with it is Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. This is one that I gave a go, but then I ended up DNFing. I got quite far into it. I think I got about halfway, and it was just weird. And it's like a really old, like 2014 or something, YA. I just didn't have any interest in it. At a point in the book where I should have been like a little bit invested. I picked this up from a charity shop in Sheffield. Feels like a little bit of a souvenir from that trip, but I also think that it's silly to keep hold of it just because of that. It's not set in Yorkshire or anything about that. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. We're following this girl who's betrothed to this guy who's famous for like killing his wife. So I guess it's like an 1001 Nights retelling crossed with Beauty and the Beast retelling. I don't know. I think this was quite popular back in the day. I haven't heard the best reviews, or haven't heard any reviews basically as of late, and I just think it's one that's kind of dropped off the radar a little bit. I didn't see anything in it basically. I was just wasting my time and my reading hours where I could have been reading something much better. I did film a reading vlog on this. I think a random number generator chose how many pages I read per day. This was one of the books that was featured in that video, so if you want to see more of my thoughts and whatever, or hear one of my thoughts, then you can check out that. I'll have it linked up here and also down below. That is Cruel Beauty. I don't think I will miss this one. We do have a beautiful floppy US edition though, which was kind of fun, but not for me. Okay, this is another book that majorly disappointed me, and another DNF actually. I got so close to the end. I was honestly like 50 pages off, and I was like, it's not worth it. Come out the other side and give it a bad rating, so I feel like I should just put it down. And that is My Rock and Roll Friend by Tracey Thorn. This is a biography written by Tracey Thorn about her rock and roll friend, obviously. Lindy, I think her name is. It was just really, really boring, and it's really unfortunate. I think I said this in my like end of year wrap up when I went through every single book that I read in 2023. Lindy's life was really fascinating, but the way that Tracey wrote it was really, really dull, and I think it was just like a bit of a disservice to her friend, to be honest, which is the meanest thing I could probably say. I don't know, this was a disappointment. It was about Lindy, like I said, and she was a drummer in a punk rock band throughout the like latter half of the 20th century. Being a female drummer during that time, even being a female drummer now, it's like a little bit of a thing. You basically saw the kind of like misogyny and sexism that Lindy experienced within that role, even from her own band members, but also her journey as an Australian moving to England and that whole process. That's where my personal investment really was. I love books about music. I love music memoirs, like music non-fiction about the artists themselves, but I found that while I really did connect with those parts of like the fact that I'm Australian who also moved to England, I think that overall this book was just a bit of a drag. Really unfortunate, but someone else might like it. I don't know. I've seen it in the charity shop a couple of times, so I feel like it might be a little bit of one of those ones that quite a few people don't get on with. I feel sad about this one actually. The Antidote by Shelley Sackier. This is a book that I found on Instagram. I actually discovered the author somehow, the author's Instagram account, and she followed me back, and she was really lovely lady. I've had some like really nice discussions with her, so I really wanted to support her and purchase her book. It's a YA fantasy book following a healer. This girl, she works in kind of like apothecary, and she has to leave the kingdom that she's from because there's this big like plague outbreak, and her best friend, her childhood best friend, who is also the crown prince of the land, gets the plague, and she really like obviously doesn't want to see him die, so she goes off in search of a cure, of an antidote. And yes, that's the premise of the story. I love the idea in fantasy of mixing herbs together in order to create medicine. I think that's really beautiful. I love that part about life actually, about how like so much of what we need is naturally given to us from the earth. I love this cover. I love Under the Dust Jacket too. It's this lemon yellow, so beautiful. It's got decorative edges, like all the work's gone into this. I was very excited for this book. I read it, got to the end, and I was just like, it's honestly one of the most mediocre books I've ever read. I think I gave it 3.5 stars because I was back in my generous rating era, but realistically this is like a 2.5. This is like so middle of the road. It's just fine. Part of me wants to reread it to see like if maybe I could try and pull something a bit more from it, but I think a lot of that is just because of like the cover and because of my personal relationship with Shelley. I don't know. I don't know what to do about this. I also can't sell it or anything like that, and I don't even know what the charity shop would want it because it is annotated. I really was trying to love this book. I don't know. This is like definitely the saddest book on this list. I don't know what to say. This is a book that I think I will be getting rid of though, because I think it's just like a hardcover taking up space on my shelves. Like I said, I want my shelves to be like a reflection of what I love. Although, having said that, I need to make something clear. Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. Hated that book. 1.5 stars. The first book that I truly was like, this is terrible. I'm so sorry if you love that book. Like, I'm so happy for you. I really wanted to love it too, but I can't get rid of that because it's really fully annotated. It's also such a meme. It's like a running joke. I don't know. So you see that scene there, you'd think I loved it because of what I've been saying, but no, that's not for me. And these are all TBR books, so I'm not sure whether I love these yet. Oh, people, my year of rest and relaxation by moshfegh. Really popular. I call this an internet darling. It is really one of those ones that's just, I don't know, I feel like it's like top 10 books I see online. It's like such a TikTok, such a Pinterest, Bookster kind of book. I just read it and I thought it was just not anything special. I didn't have like a problem with it. There was nothing wrong with it, but I was just like, that was fine. I feel no emotions. Those sort of books, again, are just ones that are taking up space on my shelf. This follows our unnamed protagonist. It's set in the noughties. She is a Columbia graduate. She lives in her apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. She's absolutely, other people's view, thriving, but inside she's just like severely depressed, and she decides that it'd be a good idea to get prescribed a bunch of drugs that just essentially make her sleep for 365 days, and she thinks that that will like rewire her brain chemistry. It will like remake her brain cells. She'll wake up like this new refreshed person, as in like a completely different individual, just through having been in this like drug stupor for a year. You follow her across that journey. It's not boring. Our main character is very unlikable and she has very few people in her life, but one of the people is her best friend, who has a bunch of her own issues, but is also really shows up for this girl even though this girl doesn't like her. Like, she blatantly will be like, I hate you, and the best friend is just like still hanging around. I feel like if you're interested in this book, you can give it a go. You might really love it. I know a lot of people do. I think it tried to say something and I think it just didn't really delve into it. I think that's why I was disappointed. I think I've read other books. I actually read Blackwell by this author before having read this one, and I think that's the thing, as I've read these books that have discussed themes in like so much more depth and so much more nuance, and then just to have this book and it just be like kind of doing something a little bit literary but also just not going there was a disappointment for me. So that's my rest and relaxation. It's up on Depop because I know that people do love this one. Okay, last book I don't have with me, but it's one that I again read and I just like, I was like 3 stars, and it's not worth me continuing the series. It's not worth me keeping the book, and that is Ninth House by Bardugo. I read this one recently. By the way, all the wrap-ups for these books will be linked up down below if you want to hear a more like in-depth review of these titles. Ninth House, really ambitious project by Leigh Bardugo. I've read other series, and this one felt really short for me. It was her adult debut, and I just think that she hadn't kind of like established her ideas enough. The direction of the book was like, it was like half like murder mystery, that kind of thing, but also like this dark academia like fantasy system that was really interesting, but also there were not like any rules within that. This is quite a polarizing book. People either tend to love it or they hate it. I didn't really feel either way. I was kind of like overall disappointed by it. You know, it was just like 3 stars. It was fine, but there were several issues with it. Yeah, probably a little bit let down. I had a beautiful Waterstones exclusive edition which I got on like release week in 2019, so I just recently sold it on eBay. That person was very happy to have it. But yeah, that's it. Those are all the books. Those should be 10 books. I've already started a list of other books that I've recently got rid of. I'm sorry I can't do one of those videos where I go through like each of my shelves individually. I think we'll go to that. I think we'll go to that. My format of kind of like getting rid of anything that I dislike means that the second I finish the book, it's going on the unhaul pile. It doesn't linger on my shelves. Like I said, I've already got my stack for another video. I think I'm only a few books off reaching 10, so another one of these will be coming in the not too distant future. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know that you want to see more of these. Subscribe if you want to stick around. I'll see you very, very soon in a couple of days for another one. Bye bye. For another video, not for another unhaul, just to be clear.